Welcome to Middle Earth and our game of The Road Goes Ever On. It's an adventure in Middle Earth, hack for 5e Dungeons and Dragons, and I am joined with my five awesome players. I should say, please disregard the little chattering in the background. That's just my son who is playing on his Xbox. So that's how professional we are. Anyways, so we're going to get started. This is chapter 9 of this little adventure that you guys are on, and I've titled it "Of Forest Old." Badu, you've been traveling for several days now with this caravan, the same caravan you had that had taken you to Bree. And after several days of convalescing there, regaining your strength, you and your companion, Wari, have set out again with this caravan. The four dwarves, Baralas, Mirabar, the merchant, and Ederic, the caravan leader.
Just a quick question. I just want to make sure that I'm clear. Did Mirabar come with us, or was he meant to stay in Bree?
Mirabar was heading to the Blue Mountains anyways.
Oh, he's heading to the Blue Mountains too. Okay.
Right. So you are all still traveling together.
Okay, cool.
You no longer have her linen for reasons that you and Wari know. And Eowyn had not rejoined the group. So it's the four dwarves, Baralas, Mirabar, Ederic, and the dwarves are Vic, Volgar, Narvig, and Narvi. It's a pretty somber trip. Everyone is aware of your purpose as you head west with Baralas and the rest of this crew. But it's on this third day, late in the third day, that you guys encounter other travelers along the road. A woman on a horse, a ranger by all accounts, and a hobbit. And it's when you encountered them that you saw several rangers. Yep. I was getting to that. And then other rangers joined them from the forest. And when we ended the last session, this kind of rather eclectic group had met your caravan, and they started talking. And the woman, the hobbit, and the ranger had with them a 9-year-old girl named Sarah. And Baralas, who is a healer by trade, immediately was tending to the girl to make sure she was okay, because she looked grief-stricken. And we're going to start with you, Badu. This group comes up, and you see. So not only is it this woman who looks like a warrior of some type, and this ranger, but 5 other rangers join the party, or join your group. We'll open with you.
Yeah. So just like you said, it was kind of a really reluctant to. The caravan was fairly reluctant to kind of let Badu and Wari and Baralas back in after all that they had experienced on the road to Bree. So a lot happened there, and they were fairly reluctant to let it happen. So it took some convincing. It was a pretty quiet trip. I imagine Badu and Baralas and Wari were a little bit separated from the rest, a little bit more than they were on the way to Bree. Badu himself appears differently than before arriving to Bree. He stands a little taller now, but with more weight on his shoulders, as he's now he's bedecked in this thick, heavy mail armor, and it covers his entire body, but just barely. And he has this shield on his back attached to his axe. And he walks very tall, and he stays very close to Baralas, just in case anything were to happen. he knows now that their journey is one that will be taken very carefully, and they must be very cautious of any sort of dangers that come about. So he's always kind of on the lookout now for anything to come. Uh, so as they kind of are making their way down the trail, and they meet up with this other group of rangers, the Hobbit, the woman, and the group of rangers all together. Uh, Badu kind of stands over Berlass as she's tending to this little girl, uh, kind of keeping his eye, examining this other group of people, and he'd be cordial if anyone were to speak to him, but he's very cautious because at this point anybody could be an agent of the shadow, and it's too dangerous to let anything go. So he kind of stands over her, almost like a beacon watchtower, towering over everybody, and looking down to make sure that nobody's making any sort of awry moves or anything like that.
So Ederic comes up next to you, just casually carrying his spear in his right hand. He stands alongside you, Badu. He looks at you, the rest of you, and he says, "Travelers, what brings you onto the road so late in the day and such a..." And he kind of, you see him kind of searching for words, and not, he's this mismatched menagerie. And Ederic, who you would see, is he's a man probably in his middle years. He's a mustache, salt and peppered hair, a blue cloak, now faded from with time, hangs from his neck, and he just kind of looks appraisingly at the rest of you.
Billy kind of looks around at Myra and Arafor to see if they're going to say anything.
And when there's silence, Baralas is continuing to talk gently to the young girl, Sarah. Tompkin is nearby, just kind of standing watch over the little girl. Not that he thinks that these travelers would pose any threat to her. But Ederic continues, when he's kind of met with silence. He says, "You, Ranger, is there trouble here on the road? We had heard rumors in Bree." And he's looking directly at you, Arafor.
Yeah, Arafor looks up, kind of sees the eye contact that this person is directing towards him. Kind of scan one last time over Lily and Moira, given everything that's happened, like not exactly sure even where to start or what to say. But eventually he would compose himself. Yes. There have been attacks on nearby farmlands and in the forests. That's where we've come from. And that's where we got her. Nodding down towards the child.
Tax, you say? And kind of this raven-faced older man, his hair thinning to the point of almost balding, rides up on a horse. You notice he's all bedecked with furs, and across all of his fingers, you see in the dying sunlight, you can see the glint of gold. Trouble nearby, you say?
Yeah, about how far have we traveled since the encounter at the burning farmstead?
Yeah, several hours south.
Yes, not but a few hours back.
Vadu would
We
kind
managed to
of
drive most of them off, but
You
they lurk
see,
everywhere these days, it seems.
the man with the spear look up at the older man with the horse, and they kind of exchange this look. And then the man with the spear, he says, "Forgive me. My name is Ederic. I am guide to this caravan. It troubles me to hear that goblins are about. I had thought that they were. I had hoped." He changes his what he was saying. I had hoped they were just merely rumors and tales to frighten children.
There are no tales, no stories here. I've already killed well over a dozen of them at this point, and some wargs. This is no fairy tale that you're dealing with right now. These are real threats, and you should be aware and careful.
He nods grimly towards you, and he takes a step closer, and you see him quietly talking to the man that's mounted. Baralas, she rises. She had hunkered down to get at eye level with Sarah, and she stands. And she looks at you, Wari, and then to you, Badu. She whispers, and only those closest to her would hear this. "'Tis me. I draw this. To bring this woe onto everyone."
Wari kind of places his hand on her forearm and whispers back, "It's not you. We were not going this way." And he's kind of eyeing all of the rangers and everybody else, and kind of just staying closer to this new girl that Baralos immediately runs after to start healing, just kind of knowing in the back of his head what happens if anybody were to get too close.
Lily would want to speak with the healer, and she does walk over towards her. She goes, "What do you know, ma'am? We did the best we could for her. I've some little healing skill of my own."
She looks
as Lily walked by, she would kind of have to walk past Badu, and he is standing there with his arms crossed between Baralas and the rest of this new group, and he would eye her kind of as she walks by. You would see just his glaring eyes kind of peering down just over the top of his beard, just kind of, checking your intent. He's kind of looks like he might be examining you, maybe for any weapons or daggers or anything that might be bad. But eventually, as you kind of get past him, he turns his eyes back to the group of rangers.
Yeah, Lily's focused on the little girl and the healer, who's obviously a healer, so she's pretty excited to speak with her, and doesn't really pay much mind, even to Ori, no matter how big he is or how mean he looks. She's just like,
Yeah.
"How's the girl?"
And the Rangers are slowly drifting in near to Tompkin. And you would hear that he's giving Redwald an account of your journey from their encampment to here. And Baralas, upon your question, Lily, she smiles down at you and says, "Oh, a hobbit. I've only seen a few of your kind. Yes, the girl is fine. Shaken. Her family."
I fear they were lost. There was a raid on a farm, and she was all that was left, and they were about to do her in when we got there. Moira there, and Arafor, and she points at the other two, were able to save her.
You mean Tompkin?
Tompkin, that's right. That's right. I knew that wasn't right. Yes.
It's okay.
I said, something's wrong with this picture. Yes, Moira and Tompkin there were able to save her, and I was lucky just to get there. She looks at her little short legs. I need a pony.
Moira is kind of standing back, and she has her arms crossed over her chest, protectively. She's uncomfortable, clearly, and she just goes, "All that was left was goblins and a warg. I expect there'd been more, but the farm was decimated."
Baralas looks at you again, Wari, and you see that same sadness kind of slowly creep back across her face.
Roy just kind of smiles at her a little bit. He knows that she's going to continue thinking what she's thinking regardless of his words, but he stays near and keeps his hand on her forearm just for reassurance.
Yeah, and definitely, guys, feel free to describe your characters because several of you are meeting each other for the first time.
Yeah, so the Wari character that's staying really close next to Baralas, it's just the average dwarf if you've ever seen one. Long beard. He's always smoking a pipe or something else if he has it. He does have some tattoos across himself, and is pretty well armed a little bit. And just in lots of leathers, like leather jerkin, leather hood, leather cloak. Nothing hiding his appearance. He's out there. He's not trying to hide anything. He doesn't look mean. He's not very non-approachable. He's just kind of like just there, someone you would just look over, see him, and just kind of shrug and continue on your way.
And Badu would be standing in front of Baralas and Wari, kind of between, shielding them from the rest of the group. He's a very, very large, obviously likely a Bjorning man. He has a very thick beard and long matted hair, just a dark brown, and he just looks kind of he just has this almost permanent scowl on his face. He just looks kind of like grumpy. He's very, very tall and very broad, very built. He wears a really thick, heavy armor that he's obviously not used to. He kind of like tugs at it every now and then, and he's always kind of, adjusting his shoulders a little bit, trying to get comfortable in it. And he has a large axe and shield strapped to his back. But other than that, his vest doesn't match the rest of his outfit, as from the waist down, it's mostly just like leather pants, pretty like standard traveling clothes, or maybe like very light battle clothes. But he very clearly just bought just the vest in hopes that was what you were supposed to do. But he's just a very large man, and he just kind of looks imposing over everybody, especially coming into this semi-friction of meeting new people. He looks very protective, especially of Baralas and Wari.
Edric steps forward after finishing his conversation with the older man, older mountain man. He steps up to the, I guess, the mixed group, and he says, I have spoken with Mirabar, and he and I agree. We're about to make camp anyways, and you are welcome to join us. And he smiles and he looks at the Rangers. He says, strength in numbers, nay? And of course, if your purpose takes you on, then we will not hold you. But honestly, I would welcome the other eyes, the other strong arms. They are truly goblins about.
It works as well. Or so I hear.
And he nods to you, Moira. Well, those of you that would like to stay are welcome. And he does kind of this very curt nod, turns, and starts leading these ponies that are pulling these two carts off the roadside, and starts to make a camp. Redwald walks up to you, Arafor. A word with you, Arafor, if I might. In private.
Of course.
Yeah, Redwald is another ranger. Yeah, he's kind of got this short cropped beard and almost like this friar cut of his hair. It's balding on the top, but it's got this a crown of hair going around his head. So he would lead you a little bit away from the others. You see preparations being made by the dwarves and Ederic to prepare the camp. And we can't stay here, Redwald says to you. He looks past you at the caravan that's preparing to break camp. We'll be heading north. We grow closer now to this threat. And with the information that was shared with us, must be shared with others. You're welcome to travel with us.
Sorry, Redwald. I have something I'm sworn to now. It takes precedence.
The woman?
Something I can't give up.
He asks, the woman? And he looks over to Moira.
In part, yes.
He frowns and
we must for a fallen friend.
He frowns and he's like, not that fool Horn again.
I swore an oath. I'm not going to break that lightly.
Your bow will be missed.
But I'm afraid it seems we must part for the time being. Stay for the Nars.
He smiles. May the Vala protect you. And he puts out a hand.
And Arafor would clasp it, kind of give him a pat on the shoulder with the other hand and a nod. Stay safe.
He nods. He yells quickly to the other rangers. And they fall in with him. And he starts walking away, then he stops and he turns and he says, Tompkin will stay with you And you see Tompkin, the young ranger, begin to maybe put up an argument, but Redwald gives him a stern look, and he stops, and he just nods, and he leads his horse over toward Moira, Badu, Wari, and Baralas.
On hearing that Tompkin was told to stay with us, Lily smiles. She likes Tompkin.
And as Tompkin gets up to you guys, he says, well, looks like you all are stuck with me for a bit longer. And he kind of ruffles Sarah's hair, smiles at her, and he says, all right, girl. And he picks her up real quick, and in one fluid motion, puts her up on the spine, on the saddle of his horse. And he starts leading her towards where the camp is being made, assuming that that's what you guys are doing.
Yeah, as Tompkin leaves, Arafor would kind of motion to Lily and Moira to like speak with them to make sure that they can kind of get on the same page.
Yeah.
All right, so it's getting late tonight. Get back on the road first thing in the morning.
At that, Lily rather smiles. She says, yes, it would be nice to have plenty of people around tonight. Sounds good to me.
I'll be glad for the extra numbers, if not particularly for the company. I'm not feeling much for talking.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Well, Arafor, you would notice that that Moira appears particularly shaken.
Yeah, as far as I remember, Arafor was already aware of what happened. I'm pretty sure they talked about it already, so he kind of knows.
Yeah, that was where you made your oath.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Nod. Yes, it'll be sleep with the night. Better rest with numbers here than go running out in the darkness.
Agreed. And she looks at Lily particularly when she says this. And please say nothing.
Yeah, I'll try. Lily knows she's a little liable to talk, maybe sometimes when she shouldn't, but she doesn't want to bring any harm to Moira either. And having been made aware of the necessity, should be able to keep her mouth shut pretty well. And she goes, you know, Moira, I can make you a tea that will help you to sleep. Maybe cut off any bad dreams.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, anytime. Lily kind of smiles.
And what of you, Wari and Badu? You see these three kind of step away and have their own private conversation. What are you two doing? Baralas kind of wanders back to where the camp is being made with the others.
That's exactly what Wari does. As soon as they all like go and huddle off, he just turns to Badu and kind of like looks like directly up because he's probably standing right next to him, and it's just like, what's with all of these hushed secrets and everybody going off into a corner to talk to each other?
And Badu looks back at the group and kind of like shrugs his shoulders, but he looks back down at Warren and he says, I mean, we've got our own hush secrets, so kind of like, well.
But then yeah, he kind of smiles and goes, "Yeah, but we're not off in a corner talking about it." And then he kind of looks around and realizes that they're on their own too, talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's as Badu's just kind of like looking around, and he'll just shrug his shoulders and make his way over towards the camp. He knows him and Warwick kind of have that connection. They know not to give away any stupid information unless it was valid. So he doesn't really have to say anything to him. They just know that they trust each other and enough to, if something were to be given, then it must have been necessary.
Yeah, so as soon as he like turns around to look at, I turn the opposite direction to try to find Baralas again, and quickly hobble off to just stay within eyesight of her at least.
Yeah, you see her. She's walking along with the ranger, Tompkin. They just seem to be chatting, and Sarah seems to have a smile upon her face as she's guided to the camp.
So let me get this straight real quick. So are the other rangers that were in the party, are they still here too, setting up camp?
No, you see them depart. They head back up north into the woods, across the field and into the woods.
Okay, but without them, there's still like 12 people here, right? Including all of the dwarves and
Right.
Okay. All right. So yeah, he'll just or I will wander off back toward Baralas and maybe chat with a few dwarves here and there. He knows he didn't part with them on the greatest of terms that he wanted to for helping them with their quest, but he'll still try to make it work.
And Badu goes off to collect some firewood, probably carry a handful of large logs over to the campsite. Maybe chop down a tree or something if he can, and just set up a little bit of an outpost here. For everyone to kind of have something. With such a large group, you kind of want to have a little bit of a designated area. So he's just going to kind of go off doing that, seeing that Wari's with Baralas.
Yeah. So the camp is quickly made. The ponies are hobbled. The carts are unpacked with whatever provisions are needed for the evening. Of course, Mirabar does nothing. He just sits and complains about being cold. And the minute a fire is started, he's hunkered down near it. Again, huddled up in his furs. And you just see him. He just shoots looks at the newcomers. Every once in a while, you would hear him mumble something about freeloaders. I hope they have their own food, which of course brings us to the question: do you guys have your own provisions that you will be eating, or will you look to be sharing provisions with those of the caravan?
I would imagine that we would have something with us.
Okay.
Yeah, presumably we would. If not, Moira might attempt to venture a little ways, perhaps with Air Force Company, and hunt a little. It might clear her head.
Yeah, you are traveling along the road, and off in the distance, probably a few hundred yards, is the what's called the Old Forest. Arafor would know it better, and Lily as well, being from the Shire. Hunting. It's not uncommon for many to hunt along the edge of the forest, though few people venture inside deep within the forest itself, because of legend that the forest moves and is alive. At least that's what the hobbits say.
And it does. Of course it does. Hobbits know about that.
So yeah, you could definitely go and try to either snare some game or hunt something if you would like. And I'm not sure if you're going to do that, Moira, if anyone else would go along with you. You're not gone long, probably an hour or so, and the sun has not fully dipped the distant horizon, when you're able to take down a small deer and return it to the camp.
When the
I,
little,
I imagine
before
she
they
at least went with Arafor.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Arafor would probably have gone too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Before they
100%.
left, Lily would
He's
have been
not
like,
letting her wander off alone right now.
Yeah, so I thought.
yeah. Before they left, Lily would have recounted the legends of moving trees and warning them not to go too far and to be careful.
Hmm.
And not to burn any trees.
Yep. Only collect the deadfall. Would be something that your parents would have told you long ago, Lily.
Right.
And so the meal is rather uneventful. The fire is going. Sarah drifts off to sleep fairly quickly. Tom can keep in a close eye on her through the early evening. And that's when Baralas comes and sits near you, Moira. She introduces herself. She looks to be maybe in her late 20s, long brown hair. You would probably mark her as rather plain in appearance. Simple clothing on her, and she always has this shoulder satchel that she takes off and sets beside her as she sits down next to you. I'm Baralas. Are you Moira? I believe I heard someone say your name as such.
Yeah, yes. Her eyes narrow a little bit. Who said my name?
Oh, I heard one of the others say it. Rather keen ears. May I ask a question?
You may.
Your accent, it carries with it a foreignness that is not of Bree.
No, I'm not from Bree.
From the east, then?
Easterly, yes.
She smiles at that. She says, I too am from the east.
Where are
South
you
of
from?
Mirkwood.
How far south?
Oh. Well, we can see the forest from my village as I grew up.
But you are not Rohirrim.
She chuckles. She says, no. No, many call my kind the wild ones.
Oh. Oh. You don't look so wild. Not so wild as the stories.
Yes, stories, they're rather silly. It's like your little hobbit friend was saying, trees moving and such. They say the same thing of the trees in Mirkwood.
Yes, I'm starting to believe some stories that perhaps I did not put stock in before. Maybe not trees moving, but who can say? If you are one of the wildlings, why are you here?
She pats the satchel that she has set down on the ground near her, and she says, I have been traveling. I travel. I am a healer. I traveled with another, but he is no longer with us.
And you traveled to Bree
Mm. I had business that brought me here, but that business has changed. And you see her, she just ever quickly just kind of, her glance kind of drifts over to the dwarf Wari and then back to you. What business brings you here? You are far from your homeland.
I too was traveling with another who I am completing his task. We're bound for the Barrowlands to seek a horn.
Her mood darkens when you say that. The Barrowlands?
Aye.
She leans in closer to you and she just whispers, because it was rather conversational before. She whispers and she goes, "Have you seen it? Has it touched you?"
Moira's face goes pale.
And she, without,
No, I've never seen this horn.
she shakes her head no. She goes, "You know what I speak about. You have seen it."
I don't know what you're talking about. I've seen nothing.
You cannot hide from it merely by denying it, young woman. Or she'd probably call you girl. I know. You go to a dark place, darker still. Shadow follows you. I can see it. It is written upon you. As plain as the sun in the morning sky.
No. You're lying.
I'm going to
That's
leave that
really
up to you,
interesting.
Arafor. I'm believing that it, yeah.
Yeah, Airfor probably seeing being paler and potentially more frantic, would kind of be the conversation. Everything all right over here?
Baralas smiles up at you and says, "Yes, why wouldn't it be?"
Moira looks up at you and her face is just like terrified.
I was only concerned for your friend.
Airfor kind of looks over to Moira with a raised eyebrow. Hassling you, do I need to do something here?
It was. Thank you for. Have a good evening, Baralas. And she'll just get up and kind of grab onto Airfor's arm and walk away.
Yeah, as you get a few strides away, you hear Baralas call after you and say, "I am no stranger to the shadow, child. You would do well to heed my words."
Wari would probably be really close to Barrelass now and grab her and be like, What are you doing?"
And she turns to you, Wari, and she leans in close, and it's kind of like a forced whisper, and she says, "You cannot see what I see. That one. She is marked by the shadow."
Weren't you just scared about dangers ahead from where they were coming and now openly discuss shadow from some stranger? You know what you carry.
Wari, have you ever seen a moth at night drawn to the flame?
Yes?
That one there. She will draw shadow to herself, like the flame.
Just as you do?
And she doesn't say anything, but she just looks at you, just solemnly nods.
Mori just kind of silently stares off in the direction that Moria went. Just kind of just hanging back with Baralas.
Moira, hearing Verlas call after her, just stiffened briefly and then kept walking, maybe clutching a little tighter at Arafor's arm.
So while many, there's two campfires, very similar to what you guys would have experienced before Wari and Badu with this caravan. But that exchange goes, while not heard by everyone, it's seen by many. Several of the dwarves are looking at Baralas, Wari, and there's a sternness in their looks. Ederic just shakes his head. But I'm curious to know what Lily has been about, and I definitely I don't want to take away anything that happens with Moira and Arafor as they walk away, and Badu as well.
Well, Lily had seen Moira getting upset, but right before she started to do anything, Arafor stepped in, and she knew that Arafor could take care of it, so she went back to what she was doing, which was actually preparing herbal tea from what she could find along the roads, and soup for basically the party. She got someone's large cooking jar and started pot and started putting in water and wild onions and whatever she could find to get a good hot soup going for everyone, because they may not have much to offer, but she certainly has some cooking skills that she can use. And
Yeah.
Checking to see if anybody needed any, like a little healing or a quiet word or something, and just kind of going through the camp.
Yeah. As you're kind of leaning over this kettle near the fire, warming it, Tompkin, who has Sarah, who's kind of fallen asleep in his lap, and he's just kind of absently stroking her hair. He says to you, Lily, he goes, "Do you think that was about?"
I don't know. There's some dark things around, though, that makes me very nervous. Just going to keep her word and not discuss much of anything with anybody, even Tompkin.
Right. Yeah.
So Badu was probably off collecting a little bit more firewood just to keep them, through the night. So he was, he's coming back and he's got a pile of, a large pile of sticks on his shoulders, sticks and logs, and just some scrap wood. And he's coming back right around the time he sees Arafor walk up over to where Moira and Baralas is, and even from the distance that he's at, he can see how uncomfortable it is. The tension is palpable. You can see it from outside the camp. Everybody's kind of looking around, seeing like what's going on here. And as he's, he comes back into view, he sees this and he just, so he starts walking over there, and right around when Arafor and Moira walk away, he can see and hear Baralas call out to her, and her just be so visibly uncomfortable. And they walk right past him as he's heading to the camp. He kind of looks back as they pass him, and he looks to Wari and Baralas, and he holds his other hand out, and he looks at them like, what is going on? And he'll come over, put the firewood down, and then sit next to the two of them and be like, "Hey, what was all that about then?"
Ori would just kind of look to Baralas for her to say exactly, but also give the knowing look to Badu that he's just like that look where like shit was just said, you should have been here for it kind of thing.
God damn.
So as Erifor and Lily are kind of going away, Erifor would kind of turn back and give this Baralas person kind of a long look and kind of turning back away. What did she say to you?
I don't remember. Something about the shadow, and she has it or she's seen it, and she can tell that I've seen something that I don't understand Arafor.
Erifor's
She said
brow
it's coming.
furrows. Well, you already knew that to some extent. How does she?
I don't know. She said we shouldn't go to the bear dance. But we have to. She reaches up and runs a thumb across the clasp of her cloak, and it's the swan figurine that had held Aradra's cloak before.
Of course. We've both sworn it. We'll see it done. Remember what I said the other day. We'll look after each other. We'll be okay.
Okay. But what if she's right? What if I'm drawing things to me? What if it puts you in more danger? And Lily? And Tompkin and the girl?
I'm a ranger. It'd be tough to put me in more danger than I've been in my whole life. Of course, I've expressed my reservations about Lily, most of them to her face, telling her that she should go to the Shire. Something tells me
As
she's
have
not
I.
going to listen no matter what we say.
And the others?
As for the girl,
Tom?
I don't think we should bring her with us. She's too young. And ask the caravan or to bring her back to Bree or something.
Maybe Tompkin could take her.
It's a possibility. I'll try to talk to this woman. Baralas, I think her name is.
I suppose. But what if she tells you something awful?
Sometimes we need to hear something awful so we can be ready for it. Better than it being a surprise.
That's true enough. Do you smell that? I think Lily's cooking.
Suppose it has been a while since we've gotten to have a decent meal. Should try to enjoy it while we can.
Yes. And I'll say this for her. She certainly knows her way around herbs and everything.
That she does. Come on, let's go.
So as the hour gets later, several folks from within the caravan start to turn in, lay out their bedrolls for the evening. Mirabars is positioned in one of the empty carts or near empty carts. Where will you all be kind of bedding down? Closer to the fire?
Yeah, how cold is it?
Um, more likely than not, the fire would not be used for heat. But it would be more often than not to drive away. It's pretty common knowledge that fire will oftentimes drive away creatures.
And it's not too cold. Bori, being from Erebor anyway, is probably pretty used to cold. Would probably sit at an advantageous position to kind of just like watch everybody and everything with his back probably to a tree or a rock or something like that on the outskirts of the one of the two camps.
Yeah, it's a rather dark evening. It's pretty heavily overcast. One of the things you would kind of get that hankering or that inkling, Lily, you're sensing that the weather is probably going to be rather poor in the coming days.
This is Lily's cooking. She kind of, nobody probably even notices her sort of wrinkle her nose, and she catches a little different scent on the breeze. The air's a little colder, a little wetter. And when she's done with her cooking and camp, things like that, she goes over to Arafor and says, it's going to get colder. It's going to get wetter. It's not going to be very nice. I don't know if you want to take any kind of precautions from that. Probably should let people know. And she kind of she goes over to the great big Badu. For some reason, maybe because he's so extremely big and she's so little, she's kind of taken a liking to him, even though he doesn't seem particularly friendly. And she goes over and looks up at him and up some more and up some more. She's like, I think it's going to rain. I don't imagine you'll care much.
And Badu wasn't really paying attention. He was probably looking over at checking things around, seeing if there was anything in sight. Kind of doing a little cursory view of the camp, make sure everything was secured down well enough. And as Lily says that, he turns around and looks slightly down, but not quite enough. So then he looks back and he's like looking for who. What was that? Who said that? And he's like looking
Down
for
here.
Lily.
Down here.
And he turns around and he looks down like next to his knees and he's and he takes a step back and kneels down to get closer to her, so maybe a little bit closer to the height that she's used to looking at people. He says, "What was that in there?"
I sense it's going to rain.
Oh. And he looks up at the sky, kind of sees the clouds moving a little bit. You think so, then?
I smell it. Coming.
And Badu at that kind of like cocks his head a little bit and he like rubs at his nose, with his mustache underneath, and he's like thinking like, you smell it? What?
How bad do you think it's gonna rain then?
He's kind of like testing her now to see like if she's a prophet or if she's just crazy or what.
It's gonna be wet and cold for the next few days anyway.
He tilts his head.
Hey,
Just
fair enough.
prepare. Let your people know, if you would.
And he kind of gives her a little bit of a, at this point, it would be uncharacteristically warm smile. He nods his head and he starts to stand up.
Thank you.
And he'll head over towards Wari and stop and tell Barrelass along the way. And head over towards Wari and kind of just tell him, what the status quo is.
And Lily will head back to her camp chores.
Yeah, so Badu kind of kneels down next to Wari, maybe takes a seat next to him for a little bit, and without fully engaging conversation, like they kind of talk next to each other while they're looking about. He says,
"Oh, the little one thinks it's gonna rain."
Oh, all right. Like he kind of does the same thing, looks up to the sky a little bit, and
yeah.
All right. I guess we got a weather woman on our hands.
Hey.
Did she say when?
Oh, I didn't ask.
And he kind of laughs at that, like, oh well, I fucked up. But
I guess if it.
Good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he just.
Oh, hey, I didn't ask. May not be the best to keep going with goblins and rain on our heels.
Wari would just smile and be like, "Well, if it rains sometime in the next year, I guess she's right."
And Badu laughs.
Yeah, you're right.
He looks over towards where Mirabar is and kind of taps Wari and points in his direction and says,
"You think he's gonna want to keep heading this way? We got threats of goblins and wargs and rain and other weather. He's gonna want to turn back. Can't afford to miss much time."
I don't know what he wants to do. Might as well just flip a copper piece. That's how he probably decides.
And Badu kind of chuckles a little bit. Hey. And he'll get up and kind of do a little bit more of his patrol around the edge of the camp.
Yeah, Moro just kind of still sit there, just eyeing everything. He's still kind of thinking about the conversation that Barrelass and Moria had just a little bit ago, and it's still kind of just eating at him, like how she could quickly turn from somebody very trying to protect herself from this shadow to like blurting it out in front of other people.
And speaking of Barrelass, if there was a moment where Arafor could kind of catch her when she's not surrounded by people, he would approach her and just like look at her dead in the eyes and say, "You get a thrill out of frightening young girls, or are you just stupid?"
So Badu, as he's kind of walking around, seeing Arafor approach Barrelass, snaps his head and is now eyes locked on that situation. And he sees Arafor kind of like, standing over her a little bit, and he kind of grimaces a little bit. But he's going to stay deadlocked, knowing, that Barrelass may be worthy of a scolding, but is not about to let it happen. So just if anything happens there, he sees it.
Well, why don't you give me a perception roll? We'll see if you see it, because you said you were going to do a
nat 20. So
okay, so yeah, you see it. So anyways, why don't we let Arafor go, and we'll see what comes from his conversation. But you're seeing it from a distance across this camp.
Yeah, he's watching. Just
Yeah.
that's it right now.
And you notice that Wari's not far away, probably about 15 or so feet away. She's just rolling out her bedroll when Arafor approaches her, getting ready to go to sleep herself. Excuse me, what?
You heard me.
And her head kind of tilts and she looks beyond you to where Moira is. And her bedroll is half rolled out and she kind of rises to her feet and kind of wipes her hands off. And she kind of meets your gaze and she says, well, what would you have me do? Do you not know?
She's already aware that things are after her and people. She's clearly struggling with it. Pushing it isn't going to do her or anyone else any good.
No.
Not to mention, how do you even know?
She doesn't answer you right off. She kind of measures you. I know. Am I wrong? Tell me that I am wrong, Ranger.
I didn't ask you if you were right or wrong. I asked you how you know.
How I know is of little consequence. The important thing is that I do. And I'm concerned for your friend. I'm concerned that
It
if
is
she
of
does
high
not...
consequence. If
She
you
kind of
know,
nods.
then
She nods. I missed that part,
perhaps.
sorry.
He said it's of high consequence. If you're aware, how do I know you're not after her?
Trust me when I tell you. Was it Arafor? Yes?
Yes.
Trust me when I tell you that I am no threat to her.
Tell me, Paralas, was it?
Mm.
What reason do I have to trust you?
You have none whatsoever. But I know things that could help her.
Well, then tell me instead. She's not ready. She's still trying to deal with it.
She looks in your face, Arafor. What does she see? Describe for us.
Yeah, so Arafor is like completely stone faced. Like his brow is like furrowed seriously. He's just deadlocked to her eyes. Like even if she looks away, he's still there looking when her gaze returns. Just like dead set staring at this person. She's trying to understand everything that he can about this person. She's being mysterious and she knows things she shouldn't. And there is like nothing but mistrust and doubt on his face, and he doesn't bother to hide it.
Okay. If I must. Come, sit over here with me. And she leads you over to a couple of crates that were pulled from one of the carts. And she sits down on one and she nods to the other near it. And once, do you sit or not?
Airfor would walk over. I imagine he'd remain standing for the moment,
Okay.
but he would walk over next to her.
So she looks up at you and she says, I don't know the reason, but when I look upon her, she is marked by the shadow. I saw it. Did you not see it? Earlier, when our two groups, when we first met, she trailed behind. I could see it in the sky.
Marked how? In what way?
She shakes her head. She goes, I do not know. But the eye of the enemy has turned on her, and it will seek her out till it finds her.
Airfor's face somehow becomes more furrowed and more serious. And he kind of looks around to see like if there was anybody even in earshot that would have heard that. He sits down next to her and like leans in close. You don't mean him?
She shakes her head, no. The enemy has many agents, many servants that would see him come back.
Why her?
Again, she looks at you, and you see a sadness in her eyes as she shakes her head. I do not know. I can only tell you what I saw.
And what is it that causes you to see such things that others don't?
This is a curse. Curse I am forced to bear.
Seems we all have our burdens.
She kind of looks over as you say that. She's staring at the fire. It's burning down some. Will you keep her safe, Ranger? Can you?
As long as there's breath left in my body, I can move and fight. And blood still moves through me. Whatever goes for her will have to come through me first. That's all I can offer, but it's all I can give.
So is it true then, what I heard, that you plan to go to the Downs?
Yes, we leave in the morning.
She starts shaking her head. Evil. Evil that can only be found there. You will take her right into the hands of the enemy.
She's sworn an oath to a friend, one who has fallen, as have I.
She just sits
It's
there.
true that the enemy is after her. The enemy is everywhere. I'm aware of that more than most. Anywhere we walk into the hands of the enemy. We might as well try to do the things we care about while we can.
They say, and she looks off to the distant darkness that is the old forest. They say the old forest is ancient. It carries with it the old songs of magic when the world was created. Have you heard those tales, Ranger?
Of course.
Well, I would give you this advice then. Take to the old forest. Those legends are true. Perhaps they will help to mask her.
Are you sure that what's in the forest is safer than those things that are outside of it?
You would know better than I would, Ranger. I only know the tales that I have heard. But if it is true, it could keep the enemy at bay. I've not heard tales of goblin and warg wandering the old forest. Though, as you said, the shadow is everywhere. It's not to say that maybe some other darker creature might not lurk there. It was merely a suggestion.
I'll take it into consideration. And if I can offer you a suggestion myself, if you're going to tell young people that they're being hunted by every shadow within the area, perhaps you should be a little more subtle. With that, Air Force stands back up, kind of goes to turn.
She has like a corner of her mouth is a smile. I shall try, Arafor.
Badu would look back to Wari after Arafor, goes to leave Baralas's side, and kind of give him this look like, do we need to do something about that? Are we just gonna let it slide? What do you think?
Wari would kind of just like give that look to both Baralas and you, just to see where it leads, kind of look.
Yeah.
But Wari would stand up and slowly make his meandering way over to where Baralas was, not like directly at her, like he's gonna go see what the hell just happened, kind of thing.
And Badu would continue his patrol, saying that Wari will hop on it.
So Wari would head up to Baralas and just kind of put his hand on her shoulder, and once he got down there and ask if everything is all right.
She smiles at you and she rises from the crate that she was seated upon, and she says, she watches Arafor walk away. She looks back at you, Wari, and she says, I don't know. I don't know, Wari. And she walks back over, but she gives you she kind of pats your hand, and walks over to finish laying out her bedroll.
Wari would just kind of uncharacteristically, like, just sigh, look in every direction, and who knows if she's even paying attention to all of this, and just kind of like reach his meaty paw out for some kind of food, because this is weird.
Yep. So if no one else is going to do anything, then the night progresses. Those of you that want to stay up can, keeping watch. Several of the caravan do that. Ederic, a few of the dwarves. There probably would be an expectation, Wari and Badu, that Ederic would put upon you that you would help provide some sort of kind of lookout through the evening. And sometime in the early morning, Moira, you feel someone gently shake you awake.
Therefore. Mm-hmm. She kind of looks around. Airfor?
No, it's the young girl, Sarah.
Oh, Sarah. Hi, what is it?
Sorry, I couldn't sleep. I kept having nightmares. My family and the fires. Do you think I could lay with you?
Of course, of course. Come here. And she'll scooch over.
Yeah. And little Sarah nuzzles in close onto your bedroll with you. And as she's laying her head down, and sleep starts to come upon her, she says, I never thanked you. And then she drifts off to sleep.
Moira just kind of looks down and strokes the girl's hair. Hums a little bit. So young. And she'll try and go back to sleep too.
It doesn't seem long for you, Moira, when you hear the sounds of a gruff voice issuing orders. It's the voice of Ederic, man that's used to ordering people around. Break camp. We're off early, and the sun's not even fully risen yet. As you all are awakened, the sky is like a steel gray. And about the time the camp is broken, that's when the drizzle, a light drizzle starts. And which only makes Mirabar all the more miserable. He barks at Ederic that he wants to be away. And you see that the caravan is breaking and packing, ready to continue their journey westward towards the Shire.
Moira will get up and leave Sarah sleeping as long as she can and go check on Isfael. Make sure that she slept well overnight and get the saddle refitted.
Lily gets up pretty early and gets her armor on and gets dressed and Goes around camp doing her thing, making tea, humming a little song. And just sort
Badu
of,
would go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
Badu would have woken up, early-ish to help break camp, and as he's breaking camp, he sees Lily kind of, going about doing her little chores or whatever she's doing, and he'll walk over to her and kind of lean down. He's got some stuff in his hand. He says,
You'll hit it debris from here.
What? She looks up. So she wasn't paying much attention.
Are you headed debris from here? Where are you headed?
And she looks at him and she doesn't really want to say, but she thinks, I think we were headed to the Barrow Downs. We have an important mission. I shouldn't say too much.
and Badu kind of like nods his head, like, "Oh, yeah, me too."
Yeah, sure. No, I got it.
And he kind of like awkwardly, like, "Well, that didn't spark any conversation that I was hoping," and he'll just head over and pack up all the stuff that he had in his arms with the caravan.
Well, actually, as he turns away, Lily calls out, "It's like, where are you headed?"
And he like he kind of like stops and
we're headed to the
and he'll look over to like Wari somewhere, and like he's looking around for him, see if he's there to help, because Badu is completely inept when it comes to navigation. He said,
some mountains or something, I guess.
Mountains.
Yeah, they're
and he'll just like point in the direction that they were headed, and just generally
that way.
that's about as much as he knows.
How did you get with this merchant caravan? They don't really seem like it's a good fit. Seems unusual.
Yeah, we met along the road. Yeah, and some stuff happened, and now we're just kind of like,
He's like trying to find words, and he's trying to find the right words, and it's just not coming to him. And he's like,
just some stuff happened, and then we're here, and we're headed that way to those mountain things, and
Lily smiles to herself because to her it sounds an awful lot like Badu's version of her story.
yeah, and
she's like, "Would you like a cup of tea? Here, this will help you wake up." And she hands him one of her larger, dips a mug out of the pot of hot tea she's calling around, and it's kind of small for him, but would have been big for someone else.
Yeah, and he sets down the crate, the couple crates that he was carrying, and kind of sits down on them and grabs the cup. He's kind of used to handling smaller, relative, comparatively things, so he handles it and he takes a sip, and he's,
that's good. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I guess she's gonna start. When he's done with the tea, she'll take his cup and start humming her song and continue along if he doesn't have any more to say.
Yeah, and he looks like awkward now. He's like he didn't really know what to do going into it. Like he tried sparking a conversation with somebody he's never met before, and he's like, I'm gonna try something new, and it didn't work. And so he's like,
okay.
And he just picks up his crates and like hurries over to the caravan, just like, that was bad. He's just like shaking his head to himself the whole time, just like,
no, didn't work.
Lily kind of chuckles because he's so transparent. And she's still, like, deep in her heart though, she's concerned about their trip. She knows it's dangerous. She knows there's a lot going on. She can feel things going on that she can't really tell what they are with this whole group, and just kind of sighs and heads back to getting ready to pack up. Not really sure exactly what's going to happen.
So there's a flurry of activity as preparations are made to break the camp, repack the carts, and get the ponies um, reharnessed, and the others strung behind the last cart. Um, Tompkin walks over to you, Arafor. So, are we going to Bree?
That woman, Baralas.
He looks over at her. She's kind of
She
she's kind of
she said it might be
getting her
better to
stuff
go
together.
through the forest.
To Bree? Tompkin says, kind of confused.
To the Barrow Downs.
Kind of bites his lower lip as you say that, and his eyes search and he
Redfall
finds.
did tell you that's where we were going, right?
But what if the girl, if Sarah, can't take her with us?
I was hoping the caravan might be able to look after her. They do much better at it than we.
He kind of frowns at that and he goes, "Well,
Unless you have an idea.
have you asked?" He looks to the fur-bedecked man and older man, and he says, "He does not look like the friendly sort."
Not yet.
He kind of kicks a loose stone, and he says, "Well, I'm not asking."
Then let me ask you, what will you do if they say no?
As best I can tell, it's probably a few days. Easy ride to Bree from here. Maybe two if push the horse. I could bring her. Find someone to look after her there.
I see. Would Air4 have any good sense at this point of who is in charge of this whole caravan?
You could give me an insight roll based on what you would have observed the night through the evening.
Ooh, that is 15 on the die for a 17 total.
Yeah. So for all of Ederic's bluster, you pick up on the fact that he's probably employed by the older gentleman that rides the horse, Mirabar, the merchant. So he's the one in charge.
Yeah, with that, Air4 would approach towards that man.
Okay. Yeah, he's just he's back up on the in the saddle of his horse as you approach, and then when he sees you come forward, he just frowns, and you just see venom in his stare as he watches you approach.
Good morning.
It is that.
Seems you are in charge of this caravan.
It is mine.
I hate to ask on short notice, but I have a favor I'd like to ask, if I may.
And if I say no, you will still ask.
Therefore, just kind of gives them this look because this guy's serious. Well, I haven't asked yet, so is that a yes or a no?
I have no use for your kind, Ranger. You are nothing more than thieves.
Well, good thing you won't be seeing me much more then. You know, you haven't answered my question yet. Are you that desperate to end conversation that you can't even bear a few moments of it?
He spreads his hands wide and half bows on his horse as he says, "Well, by all means, Ranger, ask your question."
As I'm sure you've heard, me and my companions are venturing towards the Barrow Downs. The young girl, Sarah, we rescued her from the farmstead, but she has no place on our journey. It's not safe with us. There are many more of you than there are of us, and on a safer path. If it's within your power and will to take care of her, it would be a great honor to all of us. We would be in your debt.
So you will saddle me with your problems. Is that my understanding? Another mouth to feed.
Would you
We
rather
go.
she ride with us into the forests, into the downs?
That is not my affair. I did not bring her here. You did. We go west, into the Shire and further on into the Blue Hills.
You can drop her off in the Shire. Find somewhere for her there.
A Breland child in this Shire? But how much will you pay me for this,
Someone-
Ranger?
Hearing them speak, Lily's like, I have family in the Shire that would no doubt take her and help her.
So you pipe up, Lily?
Yeah.
The old man smiles broadly. Well, there you go. Have the Hobbit take her.
I'm not headed
She
to
knows the Shire.
I'm not headed there right now, though.
Well, you said you have family?
Yes, but I'm going with.
I do not know your kin. He cuts you off rudely. He goes, I asked Ranger, how much will you pay me to shuttle this child into
All
the
right.
Shire?
Neither of us have time for this. Once I'm done with what I'm doing now, I will owe you a favor of your choosing. Is that fair?
He laughs. He goes, I cannot spend favor.
Lionel, Bud is probably packing up the caravan, but would a 14 on the perception allow him to kind of hear this whole little bout that's going on?
Yeah, it's not. I don't believe it's too quiet. I mean, it started off fairly quiet, but Mirabar doesn't keep it that way.
Yeah, Bud is probably coming in a little bit late after Mirabar is kind of making a scene. Probably right after Lily piped up, he maybe noticed what was going on there, and he'll kind of like look to Wari and like, nod his head over in that direction, seeing kind of what's going on, and he listens in a little bit and tries to gather exactly what they're talking about, and he might go over and like tap Lily on the shoulder and like whisper quietly to her,
"Wait, what's going on here?"
Oh, we were hoping that he would take the girl and drop her off perhaps at the Shire. Maybe with my parents. He's being a bit of a jerk.
Aye, that's Mirabar. He's a businessman and no more. You won't take her then?
We can't take her with us.
Aye, but Mirabar won't take him with him.
Do you have any ideas?
And Badu kind of scratches at his head a little bit. And
yeah. I'm sorry I cut you off.
Yeah, he would kind of pull at his beard and then just put his finger up and be like,
one sec,
and go over towards Wari.
Yeah, and as you do that, Baralas kind of approaches and she says to you, Arafor, it would not be safe for the child to travel with us.
Be more safe than with us.
She smiles like one of those knowing smiles, like she knows a secret that you don't. And she says, no, no, she won't.
So around this time, Badu's kind of gone over to Wari, and he kind of fills him in. He says,
"Oh yeah, they're trying to get Mirabar to take the girl, but he won't take her. It's too expensive, of course. Asshole."
And he's kind of like turns him and looks him in the eye, and he says,
"What do you think of these folks?"
Maury nods at the so he's an asshole part. He won't take anything for money. But when you ask him what you think about these folks, he kind of just like turns his head sideways like a little dog that's trying to like hear, like, what do you mean?
And he kind of like trying to articulate, and he says,
well, that with the ring,
and he kind of like whispers that
with the ring, and it's gonna be pretty dangerous, and it seems not easy to do. I don't know, it might help to have some more, hands on deck sort of thing. They seem like a manageable lot, handle their own sort of a deal. What do you think?
Well, I think anyone that goes with Mirabar and company's dead as a doornail, especially if there's goblins just down the road.
Aye, you might be right.
Only 2 of those people will come out alive, and I ain't putting my money on the rest.
Aye. Do you think it's safe to take Baralas that way?
And he kind of like smiles at you for the first time. He's like, I've been thinking about that all night.
I don't like the idea either. Bad weather, goblins, and just the 2 of us really to keep her safe. It's just a little risky,
That was the first thing she mentioned to me. Was that she was afraid that she was drawing this trouble, the trouble that came to them, these goblins or whatever that attacked that farm.
Aye.
I don't know much about this. It could be. But then do we risk going into the scarier Barrow Downs? I don't know any place around here.
I'm not familiar either. I guess I'm not familiar with any place, though.
He's scratching at his beard, tugging at it. He's like he's thinking really hard. You know, he's trying to weigh the balance here.
Well, look, the only thing I know is that we just need a forge. A very good forge. We can get rid of it anywhere. I just only know 2 or 3. Maybe somebody there knows where one is.
Somebody where? At the Barrow Downs?
Kind of just shrugs his shoulders. Maybe.
We might be able to quicken our journey that way. Alright, decision time. Do we take the long and easy route, or the short and hard one?
Kind of just smiles at the short and hard one.
Badu probably returns the same smile.
Oh, yeah, I didn't notice that.
Would they even have us? They've done nothing but harass Barrelass since we've met.
Aye, but Barrelass seems to be concerned for the girl. She looks like she's seen a ghost, that's for sure. That little hobbit one seems decent enough. It's the one guy that we'll have to keep our eyes on, but I think we could take him, no problem.
I agree with that. I don't know. 2 young ones. I mean, even that Moria girl, the one that Barrelass is so afraid of, she's like a little kid. We're going to be watching after children, a hobbit and a child.
Aye.
I just don't know.
Maybe. I'm torn.
Well, shit.
Well,
I think we'll shift the attention from that conversation back to Arafor, who wasn't done his conversation with Mirabar.
Okay.
And I believe Lily was there. I don't know where Moira is right now. But anyways, Arafor, please continue any conversation that you'd like to have with Mirabar. Now with Barrelass coming up and adding her bit to it as well.
Yeah, with Barrelass saying it's going to be more dangerous than where we are. For this look, that much trouble before you make it to the Shire? More trouble than the Downs?
She doesn't say anything. She just nods her head.
Well, you seem to know everything. What do you think we should do with her then?
She looks back eastward down the road. Take her to Bree. She'll be safe there.
It's a couple days there and a couple days back.
And she says,
It's a long detour.
or you could have the Hobbit take her to the Shire, as was suggested.
You'd have an easier time convincing your high and mighty man up there to do it than you would her.
That's me laughing, not not Barrelass. Sorry. Mirabar just kind of sniffs. Well, This weather's only getting worse. We need to be out on the road. Good luck to you, Ranger.
Fine. That's all Air4 says as he turns and leaves.
And then you hear, as you're walking off, you hear Miramar yelling to Ederic, let's get this train going.
Lily goes up to Arafor. Thank you for standing up for me, Arafor. But I don't know, maybe we could just take her to the Shire and then go on our errand, where she's leaving her where it's at least somewhat safe. Not that the Shire's even completely safe. I know my mother would be happy to watch over her.
It's too long a detour.
Yeah, I know.
We're on a timer.
On a timer,
If
but
there
this
are
girl's
things that
life
are
is on a timer too. I mean, I don't know what to do.
Air4 is gonna go back over to Tomkin, yeah.
I was gonna say he saves you the trouble. He walks over to you. Yes, Tomkin does have a horse. So Tomkin kind of meets you as you kind of walking away from Lily. Well, did it sound like it went well?
Not quite. The man won't accept her unless we pay.
They mentioned the Hobbit, though. If she were to take the child to Bree, or to the Shire, that would free me to travel with you.
Is Lily close enough to hear this?
I would assume so. You're probably just a good small stone's throw away.
Right.
But he's directing it to Arafor.
Right. Well, if she hears it, she's going to head over that direction. And she's going to look at Tomkin and say, I too made an oath. And I may be small, but my oath is as valid as anyone else's. I'm on this this quest with Arafor and Moira. But can you take her? I could write a note. Oh, I lost my parchment. I could write a note to my mother if there's a parchment or ink.
Tomkin puts up a hand to stop you. He says, "Don't trouble yourself, little hobbit. I can take her. I will take her to Bree. I would not want any harm to befall the young girl. Too much she has already
Yes.
experienced."
Yes.
Thank you, Tomkin.
Yeah.
It's probably better for your sake that you're not with us anyways.
Kind of an eyebrow goes up at that.
Moira comes over, kind of holding Sarah's hand. Where's Tomkin going?
Oh, morning, Moira. Yes, we were just talking. I am going to take the child to Bree.
She kind of kneels down next to Sarah. You like Tomkin. He'll take care of you.
You can see kind of tears welling up in her eyes, but she nods her head yes.
Here, look here, come here. And she is going to rummage around and pull out a little horse figurine, something she'd just been kind of whittling on, off and on as they've traveled. Here, look. You see, I've got a horse, and now you'll have a little one.
She takes it and she kind of turns it over in her hands and she looks up at you and you still see those eyes just kind of brimming. And she goes, I heard you all talking. I wasn't listening or anything, Are you going to be safe?
Of course. See, that's why they've got me around. I've got the big sword and the big horse. I'll keep the other two safe.
Like you did at my pa's farm.
Precisely. All will be well.
Right as you say that, she just kind of shoots her arms up around your neck and gives you like a chokehold hug.
Oh.
And she whispers in your ear, "You better be safe." And then she lets you go.
At this point, Badu probably would have grabbed Barrelass and pulled her aside with Wari to kind of have a little chit chat. So he would have pulled her aside and kind of first thing, as soon as they all kind of huddled up, be like,
Wait, Barrelus, what is it about these people? Why are you so attached to them?
That one. She's touched by the shadow. Similar to myself.
But you mean like she's an agent of the shadow?
No. But she would be.
and Badu would look.
Yeah. As you're looking, she says, I can't help but think if I had had someone that could have been there for me. That I would be not so far along the path to ruin as I am.
And Badu would kind of lock eyes with Wari.
The girl can be saved. It's not too late for her.
Hey. So can you.
She
You at
smiles.
least-
She smiles weakly at you, Wari, as you say that.
You carry a trinket. Get rid of the trinket and you shall be fine. What trinket do they carry that possesses this shadow to seek her out?
Do not know.
Where are they going anyway?
I think they're going to the Barrow Downs.
Place of
Not
death.
sure what that is.
Yeah, you guys gonna both speak at the same time.
And Badu kind of goes wide-eyed a little bit, like, what, death? And would press a little bit more.
Death? What do you mean?
Dark things linger there. Ancient things.
I surely sending that girl there would just create an agent of the shadow then, wouldn't it? Can't let them go there.
She looks over towards Arafor and she says, that one there, he is stubborn. Mentioned an oath that they had made, and he will see it carried through.
An oath for what? To kill the
Aye.
damn girl?
Aye.
Barrelass does not appreciate your humor, even though I did. She goes, no, they are blinded by their loyalty. Don't know to who. Don't know for what. They seek some horn, something of that nature. Do not know.
Out of character real quick, Lionel. Since I'm both a lore of the lost and a treasure lore for both of my things, would I know anything about a horn in the Barrow Downs?
You probably would need a little bit more information. You could give me a lore roll though.
Oh, thank God. How about a 24?
Yeah. You seem to recall hearing a legend once of a horn once carried in the one of the great battles of Arnor, and actually it traveled up from the south, and it was rumored to be carried by one of the descendants of Dol Amroth in the battles of Arnor, and it was said to have been interred with its last bearer somewhere in the north around Bree. You would suspect maybe the Barrow Downs if that's where they are going.
Would it be something that's very valuable?
If it's the horn you're thinking of, you don't know. It would be an heirloom. It would be a relic.
So something something that Thrain or Thror would probably want in his treasure hoard.
Yep.
Worry kind of thinks to himself for a moment and pulls out the broken Aranor dagger that they found at Withertop. And just kind of looks to Badu a little bit and be like, and just says, think it's a coincidence?
Badu shrugs his shoulders.
What coincidence?
This thing they're searching for. And this. He holds up a dagger. Probably from the same group of people.
You think it's important?
Well, if they're going to go risk their lives for it, and Crazy Barrow Downs, probably.
I agree.
And Badu would look to Barrow. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
No, I was probably going to say the same thing you are. Go for it.
Yeah, he would look to Barlass, and I guess he would kind of just look to see what she thinks, and you say,
Hey, Barlass, do you think there's anything in this Barrow Downs place that could help us with,
and he kind of like points to her chest, like where the ring hangs.
with what we got to do?
She seems to know some of this stuff about the shadow, and if there's any, like, if there's a culmination of shadow, maybe there's something where we could get more info on how to destroy this thing.
Yeah, and just before she answers, let's take a quick little break, like 5 minutes.
There,
Dun dun dun.
the cliffhangers.
All right, right back.
Okay, I think we got everybody back. So Baralas looks down at you, Wari. There's a good possibility.
Badu would look back to Wari and back at Baralas again then, and kind of, he'd just pretty plainly say,
Aye, well, it's a lot closer than the mountain things. I guess it can't be. It's worth a shot, I guess.
Maury kind of smiles at him and says, short, and kind of like winks a little bit.
Badu chuckles and
Yeah.
And then he would look to Baralas to see if she's willing to, even give it a shot. Because if she doesn't feel safe, then it's a moot point. So
Yeah, Wari would probably turn to face her as well. Ask if she would feel safer around here or traveling clear across the land to the Blue Mountains.
She would say, it's a perilous journey wherever we go. But I feel safe now that I have my 2 protectors with me. I would be rid of this burden.
Well, quicker we get rid of it then.
I think we should take a chance on the shortcut.
Wari nods a little bit. This will save months off our travel.
Aye, if we can get it done at the Barrow Downs or somewhere nearby, I'd feel much safer. We can use Bree as a home base of sorts. We'll have to come back anyway, so.
Wari kind of nods. If they accept us, they'll have an excuse to come back and see the little girl anyway. We can use that if needed.
Wait, do you want to ask him or should I ask him or together,
How about you just tell them?
Oh, okay, yeah, I guess that works. That's better anyways for me.
So Badu stands up. He's kind of crouching a little bit. He stands up and he walks over towards the group. Tompkin, Lily, Aeroform, Moira, with Sarah there, and kind of like butts in awkwardly. He like puts his hand out.
Oh, excuse me.
And he kind of looks at them all and he's trying to figure out like which one of them would be the best to address. And he remembers back to Arafor, approaching Marabar. So he addresses him mostly. He says,
we have a bit of a proposition for you. I know that we didn't maybe start off on the right foot.
He looks to Moira and kind of looks over his shoulder or nods over his shoulder at Baralas.
But I think we might have a bit of a common interest, and we'd be willing to travel with you to the Barrow Downs if you'll have us.
And he's kind of like rubbing his hands together, like nervously, like looks back to Wari and Baralas and looks back at them. He looks kind of nervous. He's maybe not used to making such propositions.
Yeah, one of Arafor's eyebrows kind of raises, kind of almost confused that they're offering this. But before he would say anything, he would kind of look over to Moira to judge her like reaction to them offering to come.
Moira looks at the massive figure of Badu, but then looks kind of over his shoulder at the approaching Baralas.
I've worked with Meribur before. If we're off his back, he'll likely take the girl to the Shire, you know. Trade two mouths for one, sort of a deal. It's kind of how he works, you know.
She's not going to the Shire, she's going to Bree.
And he, like,
Assistant Pumpkin taking her to the Shire?
Yeah, I thought that was good. Leave him with Mirabar and Edric and they take him to the Shire, because it's on the way. That's, if you're taking it to Bree, I guess that would be the other way. That wouldn't.
and he, like, looks up now. He's, like, trying to map in his head, and you can see the gears turning and the steam coming out his ears. He keeps stumbling over his words.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
The girl is going to be taken to Bree by the other ranger, Tomkin. He's going to see her there and make sure she's taken care of. That being said, even aside from that, where we're going will be dangerous. I'm sure I don't have to tell you.
We've had our fair share of danger.
If Moira is comfortable with you lot and trusts you to come, I'd be fine with the extra blades.
So he would kind of turn his sights on Moira, probably right around as Baralas is coming up, and kind of give her a, leave his proposal on the table.
Well, I suppose it might be helpful to have more people.
And Lily looks towards Moira and she says, "You know, Moira, that big one, he's very kind."
And Badu kind of like waves his hand. Like,
Oh no, oh no, not that kind.
and he nods his head like back towards his axe, like, yeah, but no, I'm a badass. And he crosses his arms over his shoulders and he like stands up tall and he's like, yeah, look, I'm big and tough. Yeah.
Maury kind of pokes his head up too and lights his tobacco type, kind of like all badass looking as well. And then just turns his head to Moria, Lily, and Arafor, and is just like, and I sort of know a little bit about where you're all going, if that helps.
Yeah, every little bit. I might know some as well.
Well, he kind of looks over to Baralas. I hope your advice about going through the forest is good for us. It's going to be good or bad for you too, then.
Baralas kind of looks at you, doesn't say a word, but just nods her head. Badu, you hear Edric yell to you, "Hey, Badu, are you coming or what? And as your heads kind of drift, you notice that the caravan is already making its way westward on the road. And Edric had walked to the end of it. And he's standing there just looking at your group.
Oh yeah. So Badu would look back and be,
Oh yeah.
and he would like hold his hand up, and as he's kind of like walking away, be like,
So you
and he would point to Tomkin and be like,
you got the girl then to Bree. Yeah.
as he's kind of like stepping away slowly, like to get confirmation he doesn't need to go make a deal.
Yeah. Tomkin would just nod.
And he'd be like,
Okay. Cool.
and snap his fingers, and he would run over to Edric and kind of give him the 411 that they'll be breaking off from the group for, and kind of give him the whole spiel, like, maybe we'll see you guys again later, something.
Yeah. And so he just kind of says, wishes you well. And you see him trot to catch up with the caravan that's kind of slowly meandering its way towards the Shire, leaving the rest of you standing there. Again, it's that light drizzle coming down. It's like not even making you wet. You could just feel it on your faces.
So Badu kind of jogs back over to the group and stands there, kind of like relieved, but at the same time, like cautious. Was it the right decision or was it not? But he looks to this kind of mismatched makeshift party that they have, and basically just waits for us to make the first move.
So with decisions made, Tomkin says his farewells to you all, and mounts up onto his horse and helps Sarah get up in front of him. And much like Ederic, he wishes you all well, and sets off eastward on the road towards Bree.
Worry smiles and looks over to Lily. And just kind of looks up at the sky and goes, "Hey, it's raining."
Yes, it is. And I'm afraid it'll keep raining for a few days yet.
And almost to punctuate that, the rain starts to pick up a bit. What are you all gonna do? You're standing on the side of the east-west road, a few hundred yards from the old forest.
Yeah, Air4 just kind of scans over everybody. Anywhere by standing here. The forest expanding out, not too far from them.
Yeah, Worry does the same when kind of like opens his hand toward the forest with his palm up, like you were inviting somebody inside your house, and just says, "Shall we?"
I should let you all know before we go too far. I don't know the forests as well as I know the other places that we've been. The downs well enough. But I've been there, but only a few times. My skills as a guide will probably still be useful, but not as.
Does Lily know very much about the forest? Does she know any rumors about it? What has she heard, like being a hobbit?
Just what I told you earlier.
Okay. She's heard the stories of trees that moved.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that they say and why people enjoyed it.
So yeah, once again, she reminds people that, the story she's heard of the forest, that the forest is alive somehow and does not like to have itself burnt. And that if we want to have a fire, it needs to be safely away from the trees and of old dead wood. She just kind of reiterates that. caution.
Worry
If
would
Go on.
Worry would smile a little bit and repack his stuff as best he can now that they don't have like horses or wagons to put some of his crap on. Take out some of his stuff and prepare to head into a forest, which he does not care for.
Perfect. And so, if I remember correctly, the only one that has a horse is Moira. Israel, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, unless the Rangers left a horse behind, but I don't think they did.
No, Arafor and the other Rangers were on foot. The only other horse was the one that Tompkin had.
Yeah, and I think we had one pony left from all of the crap.
No, you had 3 ponies left.
Did we really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we have 3 ponies.
I don't know that they'll be very happy about going into those woods anyway, will they?
Probably not. And actually, knowing Wari, he probably would have let them go with Mirabar.
Well, I was going to say you would cut them loose from the other ponies if you're going to take them with you. If not, they would continue to travel.
Not that Lily wouldn't love a pony.
Call him Dusty too.
He would get its own name before it died.
All right. So
Maybe Moira would let her ride with her again because Lily's awfully short and not very fast.
So you guys make some last minute preparations, looking at over your equipment, making sure everything's in it where it needs to be. Straps are tightened, and you head towards the old forest. You're not long into the forest. Again, the rain is still coming down. The rain is coming down at a pretty steady clip. As you get up underneath the trees of the forest, it helps to shelter you some from it. But even the trees with their great canopies don't prevent rain from coming down and dripping and falling across you. So the forest itself is just dark. Massive trees, silver elms, oaks, and maples all around you. And you find the ground is choked with briars and thistles. And because of the rain, the leaf fall is slick underneath your boots, or in Lily's case, her feet. And it's near impossible to ride your horse, Moira. As you travel through the day, you find that you're not able to make very quick cover much ground, I guess is what I should say. And why don't you give me a survival roll, Era 4, just to see, because you're going to be generally heading in the direction the Barrow Downs lays. Good. So even though the going is slow, you're confident that you're heading in the right direction. And your first day is rather uneventful. Beyond the sound of the rain falling against the leaves, the forest itself is silent and oppressive. Occasionally hear the sounds of something scurrying through the underbrush and other movements. And you're not certain, but it almost appears at times as though branches move or adjust in just the minorest of ways. Or trees maybe aren't quite in the same position that they were a moment ago. But you're not sure if this is truly something that you're seeing, or it's just trick of the mind. By mid-afternoon, the rain, much like Lily has said, has done little to let up. Your cloaks are soaked, but you feel you're on the path. There's not much conversation happening. When you get to that point where you would make camp or look to make camp for the night, how do you guys go about that?
Or he lets those who are good at that kind of stuff do it. Badu, I think, was the one always spotting camps and good sites for us and stuff like that when we were traveling. So he'd probably look to him.
Yeah, Badu would probably, once they had kind of like convened to make a camp, he might start looking around for some firewood or something of the sort. Being in a forest, it seems pretty abundant. But in the back of his mind, he kind of has that. He kind of remembers what Lily had said about the, only the dead wood and stuff like that. It kind of like he's not. He's a lot more cautious when he's doing it, so he probably does it very slowly in like trying to pick up firewood and stuff that they might need as he's foraging. He's just kind of like really cautious in what he grabs. He's like, would that be good? Would it not? No. Ooh, just forget it. If you're not sure, just don't do it. And kind of slowly forage around the area for some useful materials.
Maybe while he's doing that, Lily's looking for a place that's particularly well favored to actually camp in, some place that has some perhaps a little protection from the rain and possible predators. And do you want me to do any sort of roll for that, or?
Yeah, you would need to do a survival roll.
Alrighty. That comes to a total of 20.
Yeah. So as the hour gets late, you're able to find a small copse of trees that, while it doesn't afford you full shelter from the foul weather, it gives you better cover than you've had. But again, you get this sense that it's almost as if the canopy opens up a bit when you guys walk under it to allow more rain to come down upon you. And Badu, you spend time looking for dry deadfall, and even when you bring stuff back after you guys make camp, you're not able to strike a fire. So the night is wet and cold. And I guess you guys, unless anything happens through the evening would pass with just you hearing the creaking of trees, the sound of dripping water from the leaves, and of course the steady rainfall. You awake the next morning finding that it was hard to rest and that sleep was elusive to you all. Unfortunately, you all are now suffering from one level of exhaustion as you wake up this first morning in the old forest. The sky, as you can see through the canopy of trees above, is still gray. The rain has let up a little bit, but there's a mist now that is kind of blanketed across the ground, 3 to 4 feet in height. You are soaked to the bone. Give me a survival roll as you guys set out. You have a quick breakfast and you set out.
that for everyone?
No, that would be for your guide. That would, yeah, there he is. Perfect. You set out in the direction that you know will lead you to the river, the Withywindle River, which you know if you find it, you can follow it, follow its banks, and that'll bring you to the downs. And oh, I'm sorry, you are exhausted, so it's at disadvantage. So you have to make another roll and take the lower of the two. Okay. Yep. So you feel that you have the way, and you set out, leading your fellowship. And almost to torment you, you hear the rain begin to pick up again as it's battering the leaves above you and making its way down to you. Several hours into your journey, you realize, Era 4, that that maybe you're errant in your path, and you correct your course. Give me another survival roll with disadvantage. So again, the rest of you would see Air Force stop, and he would be looking around, and you see him adjust the course a bit, feeling that he is maybe led you astray a bit, and it's just after noon when you come up to the edge of this gully. It's deep, maybe 12 to 15 feet. It's edged, its sides are all mud and stone, and down below you can see a small stream kind of running through it, maybe only a few feet wide. And take across the other way is it's probably about 15 feet across to the other side. Era 4, you know that you have to cross this gully in order to stay on the path. How will your fellowship go about tackling this obstacle?
Yeah, Air 4 would just kind of look over to everybody, just kind of nodding down. I'm going to have to cross this. It's the only way to keep a focused path.
Bud would give Wari a snide, knowing look. Just kind of this like devilish grin on his face, remembering the last time they had a similar issue.
And you see a slight panic in Wari's eyes, or more of like an oh crap.
Yes, the gully, the sides themselves are fairly steep. You think that they could possibly be traversed, though it would be slow going. And as far as whether or not Isfael could make it, you can give me an animal handling for that, Moira. Um, Again, all ability checks are at disadvantage for you guys. But I need you to give me a survival roll, Era 4.
Perhaps Lily can help him by help him. I don't know, maybe by measuring out things and consulting on how far and how deep it is.
So this is sort of a skill challenge where
Oh, okay.
typically in skill challenge, players are able to choose their skills. Middle Earth does it a little bit differently, and so as Arafor is the guide, he is kind of locked in as he needs to make a survival skill check. Nice, very good. And it's a group effort, so all your successes and failures will be calculated together as you guys try to traverse down and up this gully to get to the other side. So, Arafor, you've gotten your survival, and the rest of you can either use survival, athletics, and unfortunately, Moira, because you have a horse, you have to use animal handling. And I will do that. I will make a check for Barreless.
Could I possibly use nature and my knowledge of the natural things around me to find the best places to put my hands and my feet?
You may not.
Okay. I guess it's survival for me.
All right. Wow. Magic. Lily's magic. And so, Arafor, you're the first to go down along this gully. You see your feet slip and slide a bit, but you take it slow, and you're able to get to the base of this gully, and you look up to the others, and you let them know where the sure footing is, and then you start scrambling up the other side until you get to the others. Well, actually, I guess you would wait. The others, it doesn't quite go so well. Israel is not having it, despite your best coaxing, Moira. Wari starts to make his way down the gully, slips and rolls the rest of the way down and splashes into the small stream at the base. Lily seems to make her way across down and up fairly quick. So it probably takes you the better part of an hour for the group of you to make this. It's about 15 feet wide. And so about an hour later, wet, muddy, tired, the six of you stand on the other side of this gully. Rain pattering down on you. Unfortunately, I hate to say this to you all, but you are now all suffering from another level of exhaustion.
Oh, crap.
Which now makes your movement half, I believe, is the next level.
Yeah, Worry's not looking good either. He is caked in mud.
Yeah, most of you are. Lily and Arafor are probably the two that are least. Barrelass, despite all of her effort, did not fare well navigating the gully either. Her arms and dress are just caked in mud. Yeah, it definitely adds to the weight of your already soaked clothing. Yeah, so your speed is halved.
So Lily, even though she went through that gully pretty well, being small, she could go through little spots. Still ended up getting pretty wet and muddy because she's so short.
Right. Well, so the assumption would be is that the rest of you, like Arafor, is helping others, and that Lily would be helping others. And by the time everyone gets everybody across, you're tired. It's taken its toll on you. And so it's probably about mid-afternoon. You would make your best guess. So you can choose to continue to press onward, Arafor, bring your fellowship forward further into the forest, or you could choose to find a place to rest. The choice is yours, or the choice is all of yours, I guess.
Yeah, Arafor would turn to everybody, kind of seeing the the forest taking its toll, not just on them, but on him. All right, I know time is of some sort of the essence, but or too far. Forest has already pushed us. If we push too far, we might end up in a bad situation. And safer overall to try to take a moment to rest. What do you guys think?
Ori slides his hands down the front of his leather, just like undoes a whole bunch of mud, and just kind of like looks at you. Goes, yeah.
Badu's kind of breathing heavy through his beard. You could see parts of it kind of like moving as he lets out these deep breaths. He's
Yep, that sounds pretty good.
he holds out a thumbs up. He's kind of kneeled over a little bit, trying to support all of his weight, being wet and heavy, just obnoxious.
Lily says, could we have some sort of snack before we go on?
Moira chuckles from where she's standing with her arm around Isfel's neck. Yes, Lily, I think maybe eating a bit and taking a proper break would be a good idea.
Surely we had a bit of cheese. Maybe even some old dried bread somewhere. She goes digging through around in her backpack.
Barrelass, herself coated in mud, her hair just soaked, and half her face caked in it. She nods. She looks exhausted, wiry. So you find a place where you get some shelter. Thankfully, the rain lets up a bit for the remainder of the afternoon. It's just this steady drizzle, keeping the things that are wet. And will you press on after your rest?
One thing before we go. Lily would like when they have just a brief respite and a little bit of pipe weed, and offer everyone a chance to smoke if they have a pipe and they want to, or share hers if they don't. She still has a little bit of her long bottom leaf left, one packet of it in her pack. She lost the little cask when we lost the pony, but
Wari would gladly take you up on that offer with a pipe of his own.
so yeah, she shares that around and spends some time just finding an almost dry rock to sit on to blow some smoke rings.
Yeah, you don't find a dry rock, Lily.
I said almost.
For all your want, there's nothing dry here in the old forest. So as you're smoking and blowing some rings, all of you hear the creaking of the trees around you, the rustling of their leaves, even though there's no breeze. It's probably about mid-afternoon at this point. You press forward, Arafor.
With that, Air Forward kind of look to everybody. He really doesn't want to push harder than necessary. He would kind of try to gauge himself and others to see if they were to keep going, how much it would continue to take its toll, or else he might keep hold here.
well, your assessment of Barrelass is that she's exhausted. You would guess that she's not traveled in the wilds for some time, if ever, and not used to the hard trek, even at the pace that you've set. I'll let the others speak for themselves.
Badu is laying on his back, sprawled out on the ground, full wingspan and all. Just kind of like taking in deep breaths. His new armor is heavy. His beard and his hair is all wet and muggy, and it's getting into his face. It's creeping into his mouth, and as Arafor looks at him, he just sees the, basically a giant log laying there taking deep breaths, and you see him kind of spit up some, kind of spit some of his hair out of his mouth, and just not ready to go anywhere at the moment.
Maury would be okay after after a little rest. You'd probably just see him combing his beard the entire time with a little pocket comb and mirror, getting all the mud out of everything he possibly can. And eventually, when his exhaustion kind of calms a little bit, he stops breathing so heavily. We'll just be like, I can go whenever.
See Moira.
Oh, go ahead.
You see Moira, and she's sitting, kind of leaning with her back against Isfail, and her eyes are closed. She's still sitting up, but you can tell she's either asleep or very close to it. But as Arafor begins to kind of stand and look like he's considering moving on, she snaps awake. Are we going then?
And Lily, she's been sitting there and smoking her pipe, and although she's still just as tired as she was and can't really hardly think straight, and she can hardly move, she somehow feels just a little bit better, and she slowly gets up and prepares herself to get going. I can go a little further.
So what's Arafor doing?
Are you sure?
Oops.
If we're going to press on, we need to be certain that everyone's okay.
I'm all right. You don't have to worry so much about me, you know.
I am a little concerned about him, Lily points at Badu, laying there in the mud, looking like he doesn't really ever want to get up again.
And Badu kind of like pulls his head up, and his hair is all like, it's long and it's just matted and it's muggy and it's kind of like covering half of his face. He says,
If we're gonna go, I guess, we can go just in a minute.
and he drops his head back down.
All right. Well, we'll try to push just until dusk.
Badu
We'll try
lets
to
out
get a better night's sleep than last time.
Badu lets out a pain groan as he goes to sit up. And he sits up all the way.
All right then.
And he kind of like rolls over onto his hands and knees and like slowly gets up off the ground. Takes him forever.
So you You decide to press your fellowship further forward, Arrow 4. It feels like every mile you walk feels like you've walked 3. Every fiber of your being just aches, sore, wet, miserable. You stop. By your best guess, you're probably an hour before dusk. And you look around and you've lost the path. Somehow you've gotten turned around, and at least for the last few hours, you think you've been almost circling back on the way you've come. Is that something you tell the rest of the group? Era 4? No, 23 is perfect. That's how you know. That's how you know how twisted around you are. And your reaction, perfect. So yeah, with your 23 Era 4, you realize that you are lost. You are not tracking the path that you thought you had set.
With that, Era 4 frowns. And he's just gonna look around and say, it's gonna get dark soon. We should stop.
You begin looking for a camp. And I am just curious, do you say anything to the others, or do you just let that truth just rest with you, Era 4?
I think for the time being, he's gonna focus on making camp.
Okay. So you use the remainder of the daylight, that muted gray light that you've come so accustomed to of these last 2 days. You use it to find a place to camp. Small outcropping of rocks, moss covered, that afford you some shelter. You make a camp. You're even able to have a little fire. For a little while, anyways, before it goes out. Question. Everybody give me a D20 roll.
It's more of a
What
demand than a
disadvantage?
question, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to ask a question, but then I changed my mind. Sorry, I'm just getting late.
Disadvantage or no?
Just straight.
No, just a straight D20 roll. No disadvantage.
Can I use advantage if it's bad?
How do you know if it's bad?
Well, I don't know.
This is how many monsters we fight, all combined.
Right.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's the number
Oh,
of
no.
goblins on wargs.
Right. Can somebody add? No. That's just how many hit points each one of them has.
Oh no.
No. So again, it's another miserable night. Most of you are tossing and turning in basically just moistened, wet clothing and bedrolls. Carol, Lily, and Moira. You hear Isfael nicker. And you hear as she paws at the ground with the moistened earth with her with one of her hooves.
Lily is awake immediately, but she's not exactly functioning, of course, at all levels, but she's kind of looking around, trying to see what's going on.
Moira's on autopilot, and she kind of rolls up and kind of crawls a little bit towards where Isfael is.
You walk over to your companion. You see her rise and go over to the horse, Lily. The rain has stopped, at least for now. You just hear the dripping sound of water falling from the leaves up overhead. The air is cold and damp. As you're stroking her is it the muzzle? Is that what it's called on a horse? Her nose, muzzle.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of this campaign, I will know the parts of a horse.
I'll send you a chart one of these days.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you. I will give you inspiration if you do that. Anyways, and you see your breath blow out in front of your face, and you see like a mist rise up from Isfael's nostrils, and you feel a bitter cold in the air. Give me your perception roll.
Am I at disadvantage?
You are.
That is a 7.
Okay. You see Isfael's ears perk up. What are you doing, Lily, while she's doing this? You're awake, laying in your damp bedroll.
Yeah, she's kind of maybe struggling up to her hands and knees or something, but she's also really looking around, trying to see what's going on or hear anything or whatever. So could she make some sort of a roll?
Yeah, you can make a perception roll as well.
All right, happy disadvantage. Oh, that's no good at all. Don't even need disadvantage to fail that one. But I didn't get a 1. That's true, my passive is 12, but we're not in great shape.
Yep. So how passive works, if you have advantage, it's +5. If it's disadvantage, it's -5. So, yeah, that's why I was just wondering. I just peeked at Moira's passive perception while you were rolling.
Yeah, well, mine's all of 4 for my better,
but
my worst roll.
your passive would be a 7.
Bad things. Oh.
So you don't hear anything or see anything, Moira, but you get a feeling that Isfael does.
Moira trusts Isfael more than she trusts people by far. But even so, she looks around. Arafor? Arafor?
What?
I don't know.
Arafor.
Something.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done. My bad.
No, she just says something.
The Air Force face kind of like contorts, like what are you talking about? But like he'll still up and approach and try to see if or anything.
You're about 5 paces from where Moira is with Isfael. Give me a perception roll and give me a straight roll, not with disadvantage.
All right, what is my perception? Oh, 16.
Okay. You have this cold, sinking feeling. It's as though your guts have turned to ice. You just stop in your tracks. As you breathe out, you see like the mist of your breath. You see Lily kind of, I don't know if she's up on her knees or up on her feet. You see her at her bedroll. You know something is out there. And what's worse is you can't hear it. You don't see it. You just know it's there.
And with that, Air4 will kind of. Yes. I can feel it too. Point his hand is on the hilt of his sword and the shield on his back. He doesn't pull them out yet, but he's kind of, as he's uncertain of what's about to happen.
Yeah. You hear this. And it just echoes through the forest. You see this dark shape moving quickly through the trees, heading in your direction. What do you do?
Yeah, at that point, the sword comes out, the shield comes up, and in a ready stance, Arafor is going to dart in front of Moira and try to ready himself.
Now, Arafor, you have an ability, right? That allows you to sense and certain things.
Yes. In fact, I'm automatically aware of them.
You're automatically aware that something is.
If this is what I think you're saying,
It's
related to what I messaged you about.
Yes. You know you stand no chance facing this thing. You hear Biralas suck in breath as she's awakened by the shrill cry in the night. No, they found us.
Yeah, as this like icy feeling takes over Arrow, the cold and the fog somehow feeling as if it's gone through him instead of just around him. Will just turn around and with basically what can only be described as panic on his face, we'll just look to everybody and say, "We need to go now."
Biralas is at your side. She grabs you. She tugs on your arm and she says, "You cannot outrun it. You must hide."
Which is exactly what Lily was going to try to do. Grab out the goblin bow and find herself a bush and try to hide.
Badu has gotten up at this point, probably woke up at the
Everybody is up. Once
So,
that
yeah.
screech went,
So-
everybody was awakened.
Lionel, as part of that ability, one that lets me sense it, I can also make a lore check for information about it.
Yep.
By making a DC 15, which I'm going to use another point of inspiration and negate disadvantage, and got a 16.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to message it or if you'd rather just say it, but amount of information
Right.
or more is your discretion.
So you've heard of creatures that serve the enemy. There's whispers of a great necromancer that once raised an army. These lieutenants of the enemy, you feel that one of these 9 creatures is stalking the old forest. Yes. Never would you say the name out loud, but you know it's a Nazgul.
All right then. Well, Badu's definitely, as soon as he heard that shriek that he's heard a few times now, he gets up and immediately runs over towards Baralas as she is clinging to Arafor and pulls out his axe. He kind of grabs her by the shoulder and looks to her and says,
What is it? What's wrong?
She just says, "It's a creature of darkness. We must hide."
Poor kind of puts his hand on the axe, the haft of it as you lift it up, and say, "This is not something with an axe. It will rip us to shreds if we try."
and Badu looks back to Baralas and he looks down at her chest and he says,
Is it not you?
She shakes her head, she not knowing. "We don't have time." And you see her frantically looking for a place to hide.
and that makes him even more uncomfortable.
Yeah, Wari would be right there with Badu and Baralas, just, not even raising a weapon or anything, but also trying to keep her calm, and trying to find a place to hide her.
Yeah. So everybody that's going to hide can give me a stealth roll.
Before Moira does that, she's gonna look at Airborne and go, "What is it?"
There's no time for me to explain right now. We have to hide. I'll tell you after.
But Isfael, she can't be hidden. She's 15 hands.
Well, you know a lot about horses, so you would know you could probably lay her down.
Oh, she probably wouldn't allow it though. Maybe.
I imagine that's a trick that the Rohirrim would do.
I suppose they would have.
Lay their
Yeah.
horses down, especially if they're going to do an ambush or something.
Yeah, I'll try it. See if I can get her to lie down and be still.
Yeah. No, disadvantage doesn't stat, Kyle. That would suck.
It's a
Well,
13,
yeah.
13 animal handling to try and get
Yeah.
Isfael calm and quiet.
Yep, you get her. You can definitely calm her down, and you lay her down by laying across her. And let's get some. Some stealth checks here. What do we got? We got an 18.
I have a total of 20.
And we're at disadvantage for stealth, aren't we?
Yes, you are. Well, unless you're using inspiration.
Oh, I need to use my inspiration.
Yeah, that's
to
what I did.
nullify it.
And if anybody else doesn't have one and needs it, I will give them one.
I'm looking at a fresh 8.
Is that with
Ouch.
or without disadvantage?
It doesn't matter. It's an 8 or a 10. So
Okay. So you got a 10. You got a 20, Lily. You got an 18. Moira got a 14. Baralas got a 17. Right, who am I missing?
I was up top,
Oh,
15.
Wari, 15. Okay. You all hide, holding your breath. You hear it now as it's moving through the woods.
I have to say, I so imagine Lily doing that scene out of the Hobbit movie when they jump off the track and fall down into the tree roots.
Yeah, and then you hear. And you hear it drawing closer. You hear it walking probably within 10 feet of where you're laying down with Isfael, Moira. You hear it stop. I think we'll end it right there.
Oh, you
No,
son of
don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh,
Thank you, guys.
No. What?
No, you
That
can't
was a
do that.
great session.
I'll
Yeah, great
roll up my
session, blah, blah,
character in the
blah.
off time.
We're all trying to hide from the Nazgul and you just end it.
Yeah, what levels are alternate character?
a lot of
I'll,
melding both parties together, who have very competing missions they want to get done, but you guys all did great. Not a great time in the old forest. Hopefully things will turn around for you guys, or maybe not. We'll see when we play again next week. I think we'll see what happens with the Nazgul.
I'm
So I
glad
want
we're
to
not
thank.
waiting a month.
What did you say?
I'm glad we're not waiting a month.
Yeah. So I want to thank all my players. I want to thank all my players for being so accommodating to reschedule that to tonight rather than the other night. I had a big storm come through and had power, but my internet got junked. So thank you all. I think it was really good. And I'm really interested to see what happens next session.
Safe to say we